Everybody knows about record labels, but not everybody knows what they do. There are two types of record label, major and indie. The only real difference between the two is that major labels are much bigger companies than independent labels. That being said, some indie labels are pretty much the size of major labels now, and a lot of independent labels are actually subsidiaries of major labels, so there is quite a blurred line between the two sets of labels nowadays. So the three major labels are Warner, Sony, and Universal, all of which also do film production, which is a strange coincidence. Or maybe that's because the music industry doesn't make any money anymore. Both major and independent labels do pretty much the same thing, so I'm going to give you a list about what they do. However, please note that not all labels do all of these things. So all labels nowadays will do digital releases. That is basically just sending music to Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, etc. Labels also do physical releases, so the pressing of CDs and vinyl. With the advent of kind of the digital music age, physical releases do not happen half as much as they used to. So especially with independent labels, when bands press CDs and vinyls, they don't get sent into like HMV and record shops anymore. Physical releases are usually sold either on tour as merchandise or like through online stores. Record labels will also usually pay for releases to be recorded. So a record label will physically get a band and put them in the studio and pay for the recording of their music. In doing so, the label then owns that music. Labels will usually also pay for assets for releases, so that can include things like music videos, photo shoots, digital artwork, physical artwork, even outfits of bands in some state.
Just
some
everything.
cases. Yeah, everything.
Assets really just comes under everything.
Yeah, any promotional item whatsoever that the artist is going to use towards a release, then a label will usually pay for it. Record labels will also usually pay for PR and plugin. That is essentially promotion. This could include things like sending music to blogs and magazines and things to get reviews and features. And also could include things like sending music to radio, TV, just getting the music in front of people, in front of an audience. Sometimes record labels will pay for merchandise. So this can include things like t-shirts, even I suppose pressing CDs still counts as merchandise, doesn't it? You can have all kinds of merch, like you can have badges, different hats, anything you want. And it usually costs quite a lot of stuff, like official band merch costs quite a lot of money, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I suppose there's a thing in the industry now where labels and artists make a hell of a lot of money off of merch, so they like to make a big deal out of it.
Yeah, but by the same token, they aren't earning any money from selling music really anymore, so I guess that's okay.
Merch and live, really, isn't it?
Yeah. It's okay that they're charging a lot for merch because they wouldn't be able to live without it.
Yeah. We don't pay for their music, so we have to pay more for the merch.
Yeah.
Essentially. Labels will also usually underwrite tours and gigs, so that basically means pay for it. So, you'll notice that a lot in this list, that record labels, all they seem to do is kind of pay for everything. So this can include things like paying for transport, paying for accommodation, paying for food, paying for fucking everything that a band would need to go either on tour or to a gig. Because record labels put money into artists, that essentially creates a debt for that artist to the record label. And the way that the record label usually pays that back is through something called recoupment. So say an artist has signed a record deal with a record label. That record deal will come with a split. So say the record label takes 20% of the total income and the artist takes 80%. However, if that artist owes the record label, say, £500, the first £500 that the artist earns will go directly to the label before that split can come into effect. A thing that's not very common nowadays with record labels is something called advances. Advances used to be where a record label will take a lump sum of money and just give it to the artist. Given the state of the industry nowadays, that doesn't happen as much anymore. Mainly because from the record label side, it's much easier for them to physically pay for the studio, pay for the creation of assets, whatever, without giving the artist any money. Mainly because I don't think many record labels would trust their artists with that money. I know we wouldn't.
Yeah, it just makes sense to just pay for the things
pay
that
for
you
it
pay
yourself
for,
and not give
than, if you're going to have a pot of money, use the pot of money right rather than just giving it to the artist.
Yeah.
That just makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Which again gives the record label direct control over that money.
And it's their money, so that's fair enough.
As much as from an artist's point of view, getting that advance would be really good. It's like, oh yeah, record label just giving us a shitload of money, great. That's not your money, that's the record label's money. So you owe that amount of money to the record label. I think this is a common misconception with things like the X Factor, because what the X Factor used to do, I don't really know if they do it nowadays, is to say, whoever wins gets £1 million record deal. Great, they get given £1 million. That £1 million they owe to Simon Cowell. So if they don't make it back, they're in debt to Simon Cowell for that amount of money.
Yeah, it's essentially a loan.
Yeah.
An advance is a loan.
Yeah. And it's disguised with lots of pretty words to make it seem really nice for artists, but no. We as a label don't do it, and we don't know many labels that do. So any money that is given to an artist from a record label is recouped in the exact same way. It is just recouped through income. And until the artist recoups their advance, they ain't earning any money. So is being signed to a record label good, or is it bad? Here are some pros and cons. A pro of being with a record label is that you have a physical team that works with you on releasing your music. And if it's a good team, great. However, that could also be a con, because if it's a bad team who don't really give a shit about you, then you shouldn't really have signed to them in the first place. Obviously, the main pro of having a record label on board is they have money and they will pay for things for you. Which is great if you're a band who has fuck all money. A label will also digitally distribute your music without any cost to you. A lot of digital distribution platforms nowadays, they either charge you for it or they just like take a really big cut, which is ridiculous. But a record label, as part of releasing your music, they will just release your music for you, which obviously you don't have to pay for. With the record label, you are much likely to have a more effective campaign. Because of all these pros, you have a team behind it, you have money behind it, you have promotion, you have all the things that I've mentioned that record labels pay for. Record labels will as well most likely know what they're doing with marketing an artist, because that is essentially what they're doing. They are funding and marketing you as an artist. A potential con of being with a record label is that you might lose a little bit of your creative control. This doesn't happen so much anymore, but like back in the day with major labels and stuff, a major label would sit a band down in a room and have them play, and if they didn't like anything about that band, they could just tell them to change anything about their sound that they wanted. So if you came in as a heavy band and they didn't particularly want you to be as heavy, they would physically make you become an indie band or a lighter band or whatever they thought would sell at that time.
Or say bye-bye to your record deal.
Yeah, a lot of record labels would put it in the contract that they have creative control over you. Which is, if you're a free-thinking person who wants to create music that reflects you, that ain't a good thing.
That does happen less so now, though, so that's good.
Yeah. Kind of a pro and a con of being with a record label is that they will usually... everything will kind of last longer. You have a lot bigger time scales with things, and that is because record labels want you to do well. They want to have a lot of preparation towards things before you do it. So if you're signed to a record label and you've just recorded a song, and you send it to them and be like, hey, can we release this Friday? The record label's going to go no, because they want a promotional campaign to build up to it. Which is a good thing, but if you're an artist who's quite impatient and you're like, I want my music out now, then that could be seen as a con. And then the most deadly con of all is recoupment. What if you don't recoup? What if you sign to a label, they put £20,000 into you, and you don't sell anything, you don't get any syncs, you don't make any money whatsoever? What the fuck are you going to do then? If a record label has put that much money into you and you're not making any money, then the record label ain't putting any more money in. And that essentially ruins your career. Because if they don't want to release you as an artist, they can just keep you where you are and not give you any more money, which stalls and ruins your career. Which ain't great for anybody.
That's the bad thing about that con, is that you don't know that that's going to happen until it's happened.
Yeah. Even if the record label takes away all creative control, if they decide what you want to look like, what you want to sound like, and it still goes nowhere, you still owe them money. It's their money. It all comes down to money, sadly.
Sorry to end this video on a downer.
Yeah, it does. So, I suppose, do you or do you not need a record label?
Yeah, it'd be nice to get some opinions from people.
Like, a lot of people are under the illusion that a record label is like an instant win. Like, if you sign to a record label, that's it, your career's off and you're going to make millions. That ain't how it is. I think, what was it? We were given a figure once that, like, only 3% of artists who sign to major labels ever make it. Like, the other ones we just never hear about.
Yeah, I think major labels and stuff will sign a load of artists and then work out which ones they actually want to spend time and effort on based on, like, mild tests.
Yeah, like, they'll just sign all these artists to have them contractually bound to them.
And then if some of them start making it, that's when they put the money in.
Which I'd like to believe isn't true, but...
we've heard rumours.
So, we did this video based on our 3-4 years in the music industry, because me and Lenny both work for a label, in case you didn't know. What we are saying may not be the absolute gospel truth. This may just be coming from our experience, but...
yeah, we've had a bit of experience with a few major labels from, like, a watching perspective. We've seen artists get picked up by major labels, and we've experienced a lot of smaller labels and seen how they work differently to us. So we have seen a load of different perspectives, but we might not have all of them.
So this is just strictly our experience. I mean, it might work differently elsewhere in the world. Like in America, it might be totally different.
Yeah.
This is what it's like for us in Sheffield, UK. And if you're from Sheffield, UK too, good luck.